everyone. Welcome back to Listen to the Stars. My name is Nicole, and I have a very special guest with me today who I'll introduce in a minute. If you are interested in booking a reading or a coaching session with me, you may do so at my website, NicoleBrenny.com. Today we're going to be talking about the Jupiter transit coming up, and that is coming up in a couple of weeks or a few weeks. So it'll be really fun to talk about that with Karen White. But before we get into that, I have a couple of special things happening that I would like you all to know about. One thing is I'm offering past life readings. I don't offer past life readings very often until I feel like it's the right time, because they do take a lot of energy, both mentally, physically, and psychically. So if you're interested in one of those readings, you can go to my website now to book that. Spots are filling up. I think that all of October is booked. So please do let me know if you don't see a date or a time that you need. And then also, I am offering a Cards of Truth study group, the round 2. So that is now open for registration. I might have already posted a video about that, so you can watch that now. And you can register for that on my website or following the link below. So I'll link to the place where you can sign up. The first round was amazing. I got incredible feedback. People are actually already starting to read professionally that have taken my course. So if you're interested in learning the Cards of Truth, then please join me starting in January. And you can email me if you have any questions, hi@NicoleBrenny.com. All right, so that's all for me. And we have Karen White. So a lot of you already know Karen White. She's a favorite on my channel, and she is an amazing astrologer. So welcome back, Karen. How are you, and do you have any things that you'd like to promote?
Well, thank you, Nicole. It's always fun working with you. Always really enjoy it. Well, I'm basically not anything in particular, except for the whole life reading, which is basically covers relationship, career, health, spiritual path, and anything else that may come up in your life. I have that as a 20% off right now. And yes, and then of course there is my favorite one that I like to do, and that is the Ready for Love. And because we're talking about Jupiter today, and Jupiter is so important for relationship in that he represents the husband for women. And anyway, so nothing in particular. I am still working on my horary course. I am filling things in. I did the beta version of it last year. It was 9 months. It's a long course, but it's very comprehensive and in-depth, and you get live interaction with me every week, and you bring your own horary charts. And a couple of I do have people who are also doing it professionally now because of the course.
Perfect.
So, but I don't have that. I don't have a start for that yet. I just want to let people know that I'm working on it. And
so
yeah.
Maybe people can email you to be put on like a wait list.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good idea. Also on my channel, I have several videos on horary. So they can watch the horary videos and see what I'm talking about.
Perfect.
Okay.
Wonderful. So it's an exciting moment astrologically. We have Jupiter switching signs and Rahu and Ketu that have been in the same signs for 18 months, switching around the same time. So it is going to feel like this crazy shift for so many people, like people that have been feeling stuck in certain areas or like stressed out in certain areas. This could be a huge breath of fresh air for you depending on your specific birth chart. Today we're just going to be talking about generically kind of what's going on for each ascendant. You can also look at your sun sign and your moon sign third to see kind of, you know, how this energy might be impacting you. But it's like a crazy, crazy shift that's happening right now that hasn't happened in quite a while. So 18 months for Rahu and Ketu, and for Jupiter, it's been a year.
Yes. Jupiter changes signs once a year. And Jupiter is one of the manifestation planets.
Yes.
I don't know if it's time for me to talk yet or not.
Oh yeah, there's a bit of a lag, everyone. So what might be happening is we're just going to be pausing weirdly at times. But basically, Karen is going to be going through Jupiter and the astrological side of it. I might have already posted a video on my channel of Jupiter through the signs from my astrological perspective, and I will link to that below. But Karen is going to be coming in with her perspective, and I'm going to be talking about the cards. So I'm going to draw a card for each rising sign today after Karen goes through her interpretation of each ascendant. And before we even begin, I want to talk a little bit about the card spread of the transit that we're talking about. So I went and I cast a chart for the exact time that Jupiter moves into Sagittarius from where it is in Scorpio. And just so you all know, we are using the tropical zodiac. We aren't using the sidereal zodiac. So this is tropical Scorpio Jupiter shifting into tropical Sagittarius. And when you cast a chart of an event, you also get a birth card of that event. So this was really fascinating to me because the card that is showing up for that day is the birth card of the Queen of Clubs. So the Queen of Clubs is a card of really managing your inspirations, managing your knowledge, and managing your philosophies. It's the card of someone that puts a lot of energy into whatever they're studying or whatever they're creating or whatever they're trying to understand on a philosophical level. And it's a really, really powerful card. And the path that the Queen of Clubs is on is the Nine of Spades, which is a card of the hermit or of deep, deep introspection. So Moon is actually combust in this chart. So there is some challenge and some difficulty with this transit, even though it's going to be super amazing. But what this really tells me about this transit is that in general, for all of us, we are going to have a chance to, work on what we're inspired to work on, to follow our passions, to follow our inspirations. All people that have been kind of stuck creatively might get a little bit more energy to put towards their art or their music or their writing. Additionally, people are going to be really getting into knowledge and the spiritual understanding that we're all going to be able to reach with this transit is going to be phenomenal, except for the moon being combust, because we might not always be seeing things clearly. And so sometimes being able to reach a broader perspective will be difficult or challenging, especially on an emotional level. So we're all going to have this amazing chance to really learn and study and create and become amazing at, maybe even developing things, developing modes of communication. Like there could be a lot of study and research involving communication, but sometimes that research might not actually be beneficial, or there could be some blocks with that. There is going to be some kind of challenge, but there is a lot of energy going towards creativity, inspiration, the arts, philosophies, as well as like spiritual developments. And I think with that moon combust, it could just be that there could be maybe some like false teachers, false leaders, false information being put out there that we all do have to be aware of during this time of increased spiritual and intellectual understanding. So that's what I came up with from the cards. How does that relate to what you've been seeing and paying attention to astrologically, Karen?
Well, for Sagittarius at 6 minutes into the sign of Sagittarius. So it's not exactly at 0000. So about 6 minutes into it. And the moon is with Jupiter at that point. But yeah, so if you're talking in general, Jupiter is, he loves knowledge. And the signs that are going to be most affected by Jupiter in Sagittarius is obviously Sagittarius. but Pisces, Gemini, and Virgo as well.
Yeah.
So, Jupiter he's the planet that loves to acquire knowledge. He's the guru. He likes to teach from a spiritual point of view, though it's in a fire sign, in Sagittarius in particular. So there may be some people who will have like conversion experiences where they'll convert to a spiritual path and go into it very, very passionately, because that's what fire is. It's very passionate. And Sagittarius, too, is run by or fueled by, informed by its beliefs and its philosophies. So especially Sagittarius and all the dual signs probably will be thinking more about what they really believe. There'll be more interest in not just spirituality, but religion as well. And there may be some turning to the religion of your childhood, but from a different perspective this time. And Jupiter is a perspective planet. He's one of the planets who looks all around. And the moon is the other planet that looks all around, though Jupiter does it through knowledge. And does it through imagination. And when you get the moon and Jupiter together, then you get, because the moon represents the mind, you get the mind is very influenced by higher things, higher knowledge, philosophy, spirituality, religion. So to me, that's an auspicious thing. Now, specifically, I guess Jupiter is a little bit combust the sun. He's more than 8 degrees away from the sun, and I think in Vedic astrology it has to be 18 degrees.
Yeah.
In that case, he's still like 2 degrees. Yeah.
I'm not seeing Jupiter as combust. Jupiter seems to be free of the combustion at the exact transit.
Okay. Because there's different rules and different branches of astrology. In horary astrology, he's definitely no longer combust. In Vedic astrology, I guess he's past that too. What is it? 17 degrees? I don't remember exactly right now.
Yeah. But
here's the other thing that's really interesting about Jupiter. Jupiter is one of the manifestation planets. And whatever house he is in or aspecting, he's helping to manifest the significations of that house. Mercury, too, is the other manifestation planet. And he is a planet who looks to the sides in order to determine the very next action that needs to be taken to take an idea and bring it into the concrete realization. So we have the two manifestation planets together on the day that Jupiter goes into his own sign of Sagittarius.
Yeah.
So that's double manifestation power.
It's
right?
Crazy.
And then there's the moon right between them. Yeah. So that's exciting. Like you were saying, it's exciting transit.
It's really insane. And the thing about the moon being combust, like it has help from Jupiter being there, because Jupiter is always going to help the moon. But also moon being combust can just mean that a lot of the things that people might have difficulty with in this transit, of anything that they could have difficulty with, because it's such a nice transit, a lot of it is going to relate to you having like your ego too much attached to the way that you're perceiving things. Like your ego can get in the way of how you're allowing yourself to perceive the world or reality. So always be checking yourself with the Queen of Clubs and the Nine of Spades path of the Queen of Clubs. Starting a daily meditation practice or continuing a meditation practice you already started is really ideal during this time to just like, when you are tuned in and focused and just breathing and working on the meditation technique that you're using, there's no room for the ego. So try to find something that's going to center and balance you, just because that energy is probably going to be the only real problematic, or one of the problematic things. And that's just all about how much your ego is attached to things. And it could be especially in regards to emotional situations as well.
Yeah. One of the other things I wanted to say about Jupiter, just in general for everyone, is that there may be some advances in the sciences as well, because Jupiter is a planet that rules science. And with Mercury there, since this is kind of like a birth chart for Jupiter going into this sign, we'll be able to bring some of the theories in science into concrete reality. And so people working in the sciences, they will make advances that will benefit us, because Jupiter is the great benefic. So he's going to bring us benefit. Now, there is one thing I wanted to say about the moon being combust the sun. And this is helpful to know. And that is that the sun is a planet that looks up, idealistic planet. He has a vision of the way things could and should be. Whereas the moon looks all around, right, and uses the imagination. So when any planet is with the sun, it tends to look at the sun and compare itself to it. And of course, every other planet falls short. It can't possibly live up to the brilliance, the intelligence, all of the good things that the sun are. And so when you find yourself doing that, like if you're aware, become aware that if you're playing any of what I call the compare and compete game, as soon as you're aware of that, remember to do what the moon is supposed to be doing. And that is to imagine how your circumstances that you're in or something that you're trying to do can be better, and then start taking steps towards making it better. And don't compare yourself to anyone, whether you're above them or below them. I mean, that's what happens when you play that game, and it's just really a painful one that doesn't get you anything good.
Perfect.
That's all I want to say about that, because
yes.
Yeah, so when you have that in your birth chart, and if you always feel like you're not living up to these standards that you have set for yourself, you're always going to feel that way until you realize what you're doing.
Yes, we all have different paths. That's like one of the biggest things too about this transit is we all have different paths. We all have different perspectives. It's just about recognizing yours, which even though you're going to be taking in so much information and there's so much growth, it still might be hard to recognize what your perspective is or what your path is. So, that's one place to be more aware during this transit, but you're going to have a lot of help in this energy to help you do that. So there's a lot of resources. There are going to be many resources, many helpers to do that with all these beautiful energies coming together. So should we get into it?
Yeah, so we start with Aries?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And I have this transit impacting some of my ninth cusp factors, and I've literally already started to see it. And before you even talk about it, or you're going to talk about it, but I'll just say one really quick thing. I think I'm leaving for South America, like on the exact day that Jupiter transits, and this Jupiter transit's impact one of my ninth cusp factors. So isn't that crazy? It's like,
yes.
Yeah.
That's really interesting, yeah, because the ninth house is pilgrimages, and I'm wondering, is there an element of it being like a pilgrimage for you?
Yes, because my grandmother is from Chile, and I'm going to Chile to see my great-grandmother, my uncles, my aunts, and I'm learning my grandmother's language. So I've been studying Spanish nonstop, and I'll hopefully in the course of the next few months become like pretty good at Spanish because I've been studying it so hard. So I've already started to feel it a little bit because of the factors that it's influencing in my chart. And it's going to be like even more so, but I'll be like fully immersed when, like, right the minute that Jupiter's switching is like, that's when like my plane is going to be landing. So it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, I think it'll be a spiritual experience for you because Jupiter is in your ninth. Very interesting. And I think it's interesting too that you're studying Spanish, because the ninth house is also related to higher education, which is learning a language.
Yep.
Right? It's a special trip. It's luck too. So your luck should really improve in general because you have Jupiter in your ninth.
Yeah.
So this is for all people who have Aries rising. And it also works to some extent from the sun and the moon too.
Yeah.
But if it's Aries, you have Aries rising, then Jupiter is in the ninth for you. Really great place.
So you can have also, like, if you have different cusps, so always check too, like if you are like an astrologer and you have the software, if Jupiter is impacting your cusps, because some of this stuff is going to ring true for me because of different cusps that come in too. So it's like, you can always check your cusps. So if you know that Jupiter is actually going to be impacting your 7th, 8th, and 9th cusp, then listen to the ascendants that have, you know, that equal house matching it up, which obviously you're not going to know what I'm talking about unless you study astrology. So
yeah,
don't ask me questions about it. But yeah, so I've already noticed this energy is what I'm saying. Studying a foreign language. I'm working on a book that I want to have published. I'm doing a lot more teaching. This is all ninth house stuff or ninth cusp stuff. So
that's great.
It's pretty crazy accurate for me. And if you would have asked me 3 years ago if I would have imagined I would be doing any of this, I would say, you're crazy. Absolutely not. So it's pretty crazy how these transits can come in, and Jupiter is going to manifest those. So Jupiter is going to not create too many problems there, depending on how the sign of Sagittarius is for me or the sign of Sagittarius is for you.
Yeah. Yeah, so it can be pretty complicated. You look at the other house ruled by Jupiter too. And then for Aries rising, that's Pisces, and it's in the 12th. So it's aspecting the 12th. And that could be related to, well, it's enlightenment, faraway lands, asceticism, and imprisonment. So like one of the, if you want to do a charity, which Jupiter rules charities as well, visiting people in prison and that kind of thing. Imagine that, like teaching astrology to prisoners. That would be amazing, wouldn't it? So that's one of the ways that it can, I mean, really, that's one of the ways it can manifest.
Yeah, and I'm living in a... I was going to say, and I'm living in a foreign land, so that's cool.
Yeah, there you go. Let me see, what else would it be for Aries? Well, the moon and Mercury are involved too, and so for Aries, that's the 4th house, and Rahu is there now. Rahu's going to be in the 4th. Yeah, so I've noticed I have a client who has Rahu has been transiting through her 4th house. No, two clients. All the time it's been in Leo, and they've had to move. All of them had to move. Both of them had to move. And it was, you know, it's one of those experiences where you wonder if you're ever going to find the right place, if you're even going to find a place. And there's a lot of, because Rahu is kind of up in the air energy, he feels really rough, you know, like you're riding a dragon kind of thing. But, you know, eventually they did find what they needed. They just had to keep looking and not just take the first thing that they found because of fear. So there's an emphasis on your emotional life and your emotional security, especially in your relationships. So there's a draw there too towards spending some time alone on a regular basis, and perhaps keeping a journal, especially one where you write about your feelings, or stream of consciousness writing kind of thing, just so that you can feel more grounded. It helps you to feel more grounded. Have you ever noticed that, Nicole? Have you ever kept a journal in your life?
Yeah, I have like probably 2 rows on my bookshelf filled with journals. I think I have like 20, 30, like completely.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that that's definitely a good grounding thing for the 4th house energy for sure.
Totally. Yeah, and Mars is aspecting to that house. So it's not going to be easy to sit still. So this is why I think that writing a journal is good, because you're doing something physical. Yeah. You're not just sitting there and trying to meditate. You're doing something. And it's easier to do when you have Mars energy aspecting that house. But it's another thing, too, that indicates that there might be a move in Mars, because Mars rules moving.
Yeah, and
it's the ascendant Lord.
Yes. So, and I will be moving into a different place, too, interestingly enough, in the next few weeks. But mostly we're going to be moving once I come back from South America, so I'll be moving again. So that makes sense, even for me. But I was going to say that, you know, we all have this Queen of Clubs energy for everyone, and the path is the 9 of Spades. And so the 9 of Spades is this card of going within. And so wherever Jupiter is placed is kind of like where we can learn how to go within. And so for Aries in particular, I do think there's going to be a pull to go more deeply into the spiritual practices that they might have let go for a while or whatever, to kind of get in touch with their inner wisdom. So I think it will almost be more like traditional, like meditation or studying astrology more deeply, or studying tarot, or studying the cards of truth with Nicole Brenny, studying Horus, Karen White. Like, I think there are going to be a lot of people that are, especially Aries ascendant, that are just kind of either studying, meditating, just doing the traditional kind of thing to get in touch with their inner wisdom, which will lead to more inspiration, creativity, all of that. So should I draw a card?
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Yes, please.
Okay. We always like spend a lot of time on the first ones.
I know. And then by the time we get to Pisces, it's like 5 minutes.
So
maybe we should set a timer.
Yes, I'll set a timer for the next one. So for Aries rising, you have the 9 of Clubs energy as your card, your lesson, the thing that you're going to work on. 9 of Clubs is also the Hermit card, and it's the completion of something you've been working on. So if any of you Aries people out there have been working on something, like for me, I'm working on a book, I'm working on a class, I'm working on learning Spanish. I have so many things that I need to finish. This is such a good card for anybody that's like me that needs to finish stuff. And the real key here for you to get work done is to give yourself enough alone time where you have the solitude and the focus required to finish some of the stuff you're working on. So that doesn't mean you need to divorce your husband or wife or break up with your girlfriend or anything. It just means that you need to set aside maybe an hour or two to yourself every single day to work on your creative projects and things that mean something to you, or to finish your magnum opus, your, masterpiece that you've always been thinking of. And also spending time alone can kind of give you amazing creativity and insight. So really a lot of like hermit, going within energy for Aries rising people. Because I believe, well, actually, no, I'm not going to say that.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So that's what I'll say for Aries rising. I'm just going to leave it right there.
Okay. Well, I have 3 planets in Aries. So I'm going to take that to mean that I'm going to finish all the things I need to finish for my horary course.
Yes. We're both going to be. Yes. Yeah, because you're working on a lot of amazing projects too. So we're going to come back here for in 1 year to do the next Jupiter video. We're going to be like, we finished what we said.
Oh, you know what that reminds me of, Nicole? Is what the sign of Sagittarius means in the Jaimini system. And that is trying to do too much, trying to take on too much at one time, and being careful not to take on too much at one time. Because what can happen if you do is you can experience a literal fall, like where you fall down physically, or a fall in your career, simply because Jupiter in a fire sign is so inspired and tends to want to do way more than is realistic. Now, luckily, Mercury is there too, so maybe Mercury will help kind of keep it, not so crazy, because you get really overwhelmed and overexcited with ideas of things to do. And I'm talking to myself here too, because I do that all the time anyway. So yeah.
This is basically,
if you channel it through your. Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, we're just lagging, but I think basically the message for Aries is finish what you've already started. Right? Aries is that initial spark, so it's like we just want to, with whatever you have in Aries. So this is for anybody that has a lot of stuff in Aries or ascendant, sun, or moon. So it's like, get your stuff done.
Yeah, definitely, and just control yourself.
Yes.
Okay, so you want to go on to Taurus then?
Yep. So tell us a little bit about Taurus. That's going to happen
Okay, well, for Taurus, Jupiter's in the 8th. So that is your partner's resources. It's the bond you have with your partner, specifically sexual bond. It's also the house of the occult sciences, of the metaphysical sciences. So if you've been contemplating seriously studying astrology or the cards of truth, that would be a great time to start. And Jupiter stays in a sign for a whole year. So there's a lot of progress you can make in a year if you start, which is, by the way, I don't know if we've mentioned when this happens. Jupiter goes into Sagittarius on November 9th of this year.
I have it as November
that would be
8th.
8th, yeah. If you do it at so that it's just 0 degrees, then it's November 8th.
Okay.
Yeah, I have it for like 7 minutes after midnight, just because I wanted to have a few minutes of it into Sagittarius.
Yes. So
but anyway,
and depends on where you are in the world.
Yeah, and where you are. Yeah, I have it set for Greenwich, United Kingdom.
Okay, and I'm in Costa Rica, but it's like central. It's between Pacific and Central time zone, so.
Oh, is it? Okay. Yeah, so anyway, you can get ready. Use your, so you have Venus also aspecting the ascendant. This is from the Jaimini aspects. You have Venus aspecting the ascendant. So it's aspecting its own sign of Taurus. And what that means is that it will help you to make good choices and choices you want to take if you decide to get into seriously study the occult sciences. And so Venus descendant Taurus rising will help you to make good choices regarding that, because you'll probably want to take more than maybe you can actually realistically handle at one time. And you might want to also jump to more advanced stuff. But it's always a good idea to start with the basics, because it's interesting. Before I started formally studying astrology, I just read books, here and there. And so there were big holes in my knowledge. And it wasn't until I started studying, like in a systematic way, I started studying with Ernst Wilhelm. And I started with the basics first. And it really made a huge difference, because it filled in all the gaps in my education. And I know because there's a lot of, videos about astrology on YouTube. It's easy to do that. It's easy to have big gaps in your understanding, in your knowledge. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, I recommend you do it in a more systematic way. And would you like to talk about how Rahu and Ketu are also making sign aspects to Taurus rising? Both of them are.
Yes, but I think that we should only stick with, I feel like we should only stick with the Jupiter transit because otherwise this video is going to be way too long.
You think so?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, because we already did talk a lot for Aries, didn't we?
Yeah, and we can always do a separate Rahu and Ketu transit video because I know I'll be making one, or I will have already posted one by the time this comes out. So
okay.
Otherwise,
yeah, so that makes sense. That makes sense because Rahu and Ketu deserve their own video.
Yes, it's actually a longer transit than the Jupiter transit. So I apologize if we don't get to explain that in this video, but I can have Karen back on if you guys want to hear her perspective, because I'm going to be making obviously like a long video on Rahu and Ketu too. So
that would be fun. I would love to do that with you, Nicole.
Okay, so let's just do it anyways.
Okay, so then,
want it.
yeah, they want it.
Okay. I know.
Okay, so Jupiter in the 8th. It's just a really nice place for him to be for Taurus rising. That means if you have a partner, your partner's resources should expand. There should be they'll be making more money, or maybe they'll inherit something, because the 8th house is also inheritance. There could be a change in career. When Jupiter is going through the 8th, there is often so for Taurus rising, if you've been thinking about making a career change, and it can be within the same career but a different aspect of it, or it can be something completely different, that would be a really good time to make that change.
Yes.
So yeah.
Okay, let's see the card for Taurus rising for this beautiful Jupiter transit. You have the Queen of Clubs. So this is the card of the transit itself. So this is very, very powerful. So this is likely going to be a very impactful, very impactful transit for you. And I'm just kind of taking a look here to see if I can see any little clues. But in the actual chart of Jupiter shifting into Sagittarius, Venus is in its own house. So it's a very, very strong Venus. So it does make me think that, you know, the Venus-ruled signs are going to have a lot of opportunity with this transit to do some amazing stuff. So with the Queen of Clubs, if you have your ascendant, your moon, or your sun in Taurus, this could be a hugely creative time for you. It could be a time where you finally start to organize some of the things that have been a little bit disorganized or disheveled with Jupiter being in Scorpio, because Jupiter in Scorpio is so intense. So you could have been spending so much time just like, you know, like overthinking things and going really deep within yourself, especially in terms of relationships, and kind of just being in that mode. But now it's kind of like, okay, it's time to take care of business. It's time to get my stuff in order. It's time to put energy into my art, put energy into my music, put energy into my writing, put energy into whatever creative thing you have going, and be consistent with it and nurture it and work on it and make it something real and tangible. So I see a lot of Taurus energy people being highly creative during this year, even studying a lot, becoming more stable and excited about their beliefs, and making the most of it. So it's going to be powerful for Taurus energy people.
That is good. I like the sound of that. Queen of Clubs too does correlate to also studying astrology and or the cards.
Yes, I'm glad you mentioned that, because Queen of Clubs is like one of the most intuitive cards in the whole deck. So great timing. Yeah.
Perfect timing. Excellent. So you want to go into Gemini then?
Yes.
Okay, so for Gemini, Jupiter's in the 7th house.
Yes.
And Jupiter is natural ruler of husband for a woman. And when Jupiter is going through the 7th house, that is often when you meet your husband, or if you're in a relationship already, the relationship becomes much more serious. And you start talking about what kind of empire you're going to create together in the future. Yeah. Whether that's having children or having a business, because Mercury is there too. Mercury's business. Whatever it is, that's the time when you're much more likely to meet somebody very significant in your life. Now, if you are a man, and whether you're in a relationship or not, Jupiter going through the 7th could be when you decide what you're going to be doing for the next 12 years in terms of building your empire. Whether it's with a partner, like a romantic partner, or with a business partner, doesn't matter. But you have your 2nd house, Lord Moon, there too. So you're going to be thinking about how you can make more money as it involves the public, like your customers, your clients, or your public in general, depending on what it is that you do.
Yeah.
So that's a really nice trend, because Jupiter in his own sign, he can really manifest very powerfully for you.
Yeah.
So you want to say something about that, Nicole?
Yeah, well, I think for one, from the spread, I think a lot of new things can come in too, a lot of like new beginnings and new energies. And also with Jupiter there, Jupiter can wash away relationships that aren't really working or really suitable for you to bring in something more new and inspiring. So if you do go through a breakup, like don't fret, because there could be something better on the way. And let's see what card we have for Gemini rising.
You know, there's one more thing I wanted to say about that, if that's okay. Jupiter is in a dual sign. And because it's in a dual sign, you may have 2 potential husbands that you need to choose between.
Yes.
So it could be like Nicole was saying, it also takes out relationships that aren't really working for you. So you could have that one and then a new one, a new person coming in. So if you're confused about it, then get a reading. It would be a good time to get a reading.
Yes, perfect. Yeah. And the card that I got is not an easy card. So I have the Queen of Diamonds reversed. So the Queen of Diamonds, when it's upright, is a really good card for managing your resources well, for gaining money, for making money, and all of that. So what I would say is that for any Gemini rising people, you really do need to watch how you're managing your money during this transit. I'm trying to kind of apply it to the astrology. And the one thing that I could say is that you could, for some of you that are listening, you could be overly optimistic about some collaborations that you get into, or some business partnerships that you can get into. And there's going to be a lot of great opportunity and a lot of great potential there, but you might kind of overspend or invest, or not necessarily use the resources that you have in the wisest way. So this kind of comes as a warning to say, you know, with all this new energy coming in, even like meeting someone new, be really mindful of your spending, be really mindful of the way that you're nurturing your resources. Because you don't want to get to a point where as soon as Jupiter moves into your 8th house, that you're relying on someone else financially. So this is kind of a time to be very careful with your finances, and to maybe even for some of you, it's not even about being careful with your finances. It might just simply be that you focus less on money because you're really a lot more concerned about partnership and growth in those areas, and growth in the way that you're relating to others. So it could even be like a good thing for some of you to kind of let go of more of the material kind of stuff to focus more on the emotional stuff, because Jupiter just got done with the 6th house, that Arta house, and it's now in a more emotional based part, or emotionally centered part of your chart. So it doesn't have to be a bad thing, but for some of you it will be like being overly optimistic about like a collaboration or a business or something, and going way too far in, and that's really going to be dependent upon your particular birth chart. So even though Jupiter is nice in Sagittarius, where Jupiter is in your chart compared to the other planets, and compare your natal planets is what I mean. So Jupiter has a relationship with all of your natal planets. So it can be, 3 houses away or 12 houses away. So it could definitely be like, it could impact you in a negative way, regardless of how beautiful it is to have Jupiter in Sagittarius. So more difficult.
Yeah. Though, even though Jupiter is one of the planets that he is a manifestation planet, and he is a benefic, so he'll bring something positive.
Yes.
It's just maybe not 100%, because everything in astrology is about context, which is what Nicole is saying in a different way. So it depends on what you're talking about. But it is aspecting the 10th for Gemini rising too, and the 4th. So the 4th is your inner emotional life, and that's really nice to have Jupiter aspecting that. And the 10th too, which is your career, your responsibilities. So there's that's positive as well. But yeah, so, you know, whenever a major planet like this goes into the next sign or changes signs, that's always a good time to get a reading to find out how is that going to affect you, because it's a year-long transit. Wouldn't you say that's a good time to get a reading, Nicole?
Yeah, and I think specifically right now because you also have Rahu and Ketu shifting. So yeah, you can look at it with the astrology, you can look at it with the cards of truth. Some people even just get like a tarot reading. But I think that it's nice to do like a combination or to do astrology because you can look at the actual transit. So I definitely look at how Jupiter is not impacting just that sign, but all of your natal planets too. So is it actually going to be beneficial for you, or should I just, you know, let you know that you might be overly optimistic so maybe you can make more level-headed decisions moving forward? So yeah, I think it's a perfect time because it's the beginning of a new cycle and you're actually going to feel it. Like I already feel it. Like I wasn't trying to learn Spanish, you know, 6 months ago when I should have been, but now it's just like all day long, every day, you know?
Wow. I think it's great that you're learning Spanish. You can do transit videos in Spanish.
Yeah, right. I know.
Or have a Spanish translation or something.
I speak French and Spanish, so I should really get them up to speed because it is fun to, you know, share in those languages. But let's talk about Cancer.
Yes. Okay, so for Cancer, Jupiter's in the 6th. Will be in the 6th. And the 6th house is related to health. Of course, that's like the #1 house for health. Enemies. And when you have Jupiter there, and Mercury in this case, and the moon, you can actually change an enemy into a friend. You can kind of, it says in Vedic astrology, if somebody has Jupiter in the 6th house, often it means that no one can find fault with them. So then their enemies just kind of go away. They're not their enemies anymore. And it's also has to do with digestion, and Jupiter is related to the liver. So that should be some improvement there. But it's also the healing arts. And studying, astrology and cards, tarot and the kind of cards, cards of truth, all that stuff, those are classified as being in the healing arts. So if you have been studying it for a while, now would be a time for you to start actually giving readings. And you can do them for free until you feel a lot more comfortable with what you're doing. You get feedback from people. But I would say this would be a good time for you to actually start applying it with the people that you know, friends, relatives, and anybody who would like to get a reading with you. And or maybe you're deciding you're going to do it professionally. Perfect time for it. It really is, because that house is a super important house for anybody in any of the healing arts. It's going to be one of your career houses. Again, something you can only see in particular for your chart if you get a Jaimini reading. But nevertheless, in general, it could mean that. That's one of the many things it could mean.
Perfect.
So what would you like to say about that?
So, well, I'm a Cancer sun, as anyone who follows me on Instagram probably knows, but I'm excited for that because also I, like, health-wise, like, I want to get back into better routines and exercise more regularly. Like, I always end up not being able to do that because of, like, work and traveling and moving. So I'm excited to maybe have a little bit more help with, like, just getting a regular routine going and all that. So I think that will help us all of us Cancer-oriented people. So let's see.
Yes.
Look at this. So I was talking about it, and here it shows up, the Six of Spades. We have an amazing opportunity. This is my Rahu card for this year, I believe. And this is the card of, I think it's my Rahu or my Venus card. But this is the card of just being like feeling so good about yourself, feeling the absolute pinnacle of health, feeling like you are comfortable in your own skin and just happy to be who you are. So I think for Cancer, rising suns and moons, we're going to have this opportunity to take care of ourselves and to get ourselves on the right track with our routines, with our day-to-day things, with our health especially. So if you are wanting to start, doing yoga every day or jogging every day or whatever, like maybe it's kind of hard for you to figure this out now, because I know for me it's like literally pulling teeth to try to get myself into routine. But after November, there should be a lot more opportunity and help energetically to kind of get you going in the morning and to take care of yourself. And you should just be feeling like so good. This is a great card for just being like, I'm just happy to be alive and I'm just feeling great about myself. So I think it's going to be mostly because you're feeling healthy. So if you're feeling depressed, if you're feeling frustrated, angry, see if there's something in your diet or something in your exercise or your sleep that you can fix, because I think fixing all those things or even one of them could be the key to getting you to a better place, basically.
Yeah, you might find a teacher in that area of your life too, somebody who you can see on a regular basis too, like perhaps a coach, a health coach, or you go to a naturopath or an acupuncturist or Ayurveda practitioner, something like that, to really shed light and expand that area for you. Yeah, it's a good idea. I like that. That's really nice. It's a nice verification, isn't it? It's so amazing how the cards that you pull, they're always like verifying what the astrology is saying.
Yeah, and I shuffled these cards for like 45 minutes before I pulled anything too. So they're really like,
wow. Okay. That's so, I just love that synchronicity.
Me too.
So Leo then?
Yes.
Shall we go to Leo?